If you don't know who Daredevil is, or rather you don't know what his backstory/origin is, let me quickly explain. Before he got a fan favourite Netflix show, and before he shot onto the big screen in one of the biggest movies of all time, Matt Murdock was a blind lawyer that fights crime and takes down criminals legally by day, but when that sun goes down, the devil of Hell's Kitchen has his own set of rules. Daredevil doesn't have blow your head off type abilities, but he does have some. In 1964, he pushed a man out of the way of an oncoming truck filled with radioactive materials, and some of it fell from the vehicle, hitting Matt in the face, blinding him for life. Fun fact actually, the same radioactive substance is the reason the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles became mutants. The creators loved Daredevil so much, they tied their origins to his. The exposure to such materials gave Daredevil heightened senses beyond that of any other human. He calls it his radar sense. Later down the line, his father is murdered for sticking to his morals and refusing to throw a fight. This incident becomes a strong moral compass for Matt throughout the rest of his life. And as a now orphaned child, he is picked off the street by an older blind man by the name of Stick. Under Stick's training, he hones his physical abilities to that of an acrobat and an expert level martial artist, while also training his new superhuman abilities to perfection, effectively letting him see perfectly, using only sound, smell, touch and taste. And now as the devil of Hell's Kitchen, he protects the innocent and rids the streets of any crime he may encounter. Now why do I think Daredevil is Marvel's greatest hero? Well, firstly because I think his origins and motivations are perfect. He grows up learning how to fight from his dad, him being his hero, and when that gets taken away from him, he has a choice: to buckle under the pressure and just be a blind orphan, or use his dad's death as motivation to become the hero he is today. He is also motivated by his faith in God. Now, I'm not a particularly religious man myself, but seeing Matt's devotion to his God, while actively wearing iconography that represents the exact opposite of what that God represents, shows the complexity of his character. It shows how human and flawed he can be, despite being portrayed as the man without fear. Another place where we can see the duality of his character is in the fact that he is by day a lawyer, and by night a vigilante, breaking the laws he vows to uphold. The only way he can forgive himself is by frequently visiting his local church, repenting for his sins. But is this just a coping mechanism, or an easy way out he gives himself to forgive some of the violent things he's so used to doing? From the character's inception to around the 80s, wackiness and silliness was welcomed at the Marvel office at the time, as comic books were pretty much considered for children, so that's where we get his bright yellow suit from, and his silly villains. Like Leapfrog, who he defeats by punching him into water. Yep, I know, the frog-themed villain loses by being put in water. Or Stiltman, who he defeats by, you guessed it, just making him trip over. It wasn't the best of the best Marvel could put out at the time, which was why Daredevil was thrown to the side for many years and not taken seriously until the 80s. Yeah, he may have appeared in a Spider-Man book or two, but who didn't back then? One man in the 80s picked up the title of Daredevil and ran with it. Frank Miller. This genre-defining run of about 40 issues or so gave the once silly spandex-wearing acrobat a grim and gritty new attitude towards crime. From taking on the likes of Stiltman to going toe-to-toe with vicious murderers and serial killers like Bullseye and Kingpin. And he even introduces his ever-present love interest, Elektra. So in a short space of time, the character went from a laughing stock in tights on the verge of cancellation to a monthly title where the main character would take on ninja assassins and go against evil giant corporations all by himself. Setting up the Daredevil mythos from then until now, where writers and artists are still pulling from his storylines between Daredevil and the Punisher, or the death of Elektra. His presence on the character will be there until comics are no more, showing how important that one man was at carrying the Daredevil torch into the mainstream. Miller himself went on to write some of the most important stories of the comic book medium in general, like The Dark Knight Returns, Sin City, Wolverine, 300, Batman Year One. It's actually insane looking at it, how many influential titles this man had. And over the years, Daredevil has been very lucky. Luckier than most, I might say. Because since then, I don't think Daredevil has had one bad run. With creators such as Brian Michael Bendis, Mark Waid, Ed Brubaker, Charles Soule, and most recently, Chip Zdarsky, picking up the torch that Frank Miller passed on to continue to expand and build on the mythos of the man without fear. Every single author's run I just mentioned are all amazing. Every one of them. The only other characters with such talent writing their books are characters like Spider-Man, Batman, Superman, and to even be mentioned in the same era as those guys just goes to show how attractive the character is to write. The rich history that appeals to such a wide audience that the best creators in the business would kill for a crack at it. My favourite run is probably Marvel Knights Daredevil with Brian Michael Bendis and Alex Maleev. It reminds me of the Frank Miller stories of old, with its grittiness and era-defining action. It's my favourite. But my favourite cover is Joe Quesada's issue 3 on Kevin Smith's run. It was actually my profile picture on YouTube for such a long time. But all in all, Daredevil, in my opinion, is Marvel's greatest hero because of everything I just mentioned. And if you don't believe me, give it a try for yourself. Start with Miller's run onwards, or if you don't like reading the old stuff, Chip Zdarsky's run is only like a year or two old. Start there, and your mind will be blown at the level of art and storytelling the character can draw out of its creators. Well yeah, that's just my opinion. You can disagree or agree with me in the comments below. Let me know. And if you like this style of video, let me know, because I posted twice a week for the last year, and I'm thinking this year to take my time with stories like this one, or even if you have any suggestions, let me know down below. Like, share, comment, subscribe. Peace.